Oh, yep. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So I've got a actually rather serious lecture to talk to you about today. So excuse me if I don't bring my usual humor and jokes to what I have to say, because a lot of it is unfortunately quite blunt and maybe even a little traumatic. We're talking about the escalation of violence against Jewish people in Germany after the Nazi regime takes over. We're going to talk about Kristallnacht later this week, and we're just going to be talking about violence and escalation to that moment right now. So, let's begin. So about 600,000 Jews actually used to live in Germany, which I suppose in some respects isn't that much, but at least compared to other countries like Poland that had 2.5 million. Most were proud to be German. Most would not have necessarily thought of themselves as Jewish, and more than 100,000 German Jews had actually served in the army in World War II. That's 1/6 of all Jews in Germany. And we're talking about fighting age males. I mean, that's a large proportion, really. Many held important positions in government and taught at renowned universities, Albert Einstein being one of those. Of the 38 Nobel Prizes won by Germany between 1905 and 1936, 14 were German Jews. So, persecution starts not long after Nazi Germany takes over with a boycott. This was actually the brainchild of Joseph Goebbels, propaganda minister of the Reich, where they decided they were going to boycott Jewish businesses and professional offices. It was revenge against Propaganda, or atrocity stories. Allegedly, German and foreign Jews were spreading damaging stories in the press against the Nazis. Stormtroopers camped out in front of businesses and offices, painted yellow and black stars of David on doors and windows, posted signs that said, "Don't buy from Jews," and that Jews are our misfortune. Acts of violence against Jews and their property occurred, only really lasted one day. Many Germans ignored it. They wanted their Saturday shopping done, and the whole anti-Semitic thing wasn't taking root quite yet with everyone. They were more interested in bargains, and it was Saturday, the Jewish Sabbath, so most Jewish stores were actually already closed. It was enacted 6 days enacted the law for the restoration of civil service, which was enacted 6 days after the boycott, made Aryanism, the master race of the Nazi creed, a requirement to hold a civil service position. Jewish government workers, teachers, and professors were all fired and forced into early retirement in order to purge them from basically government and public service. They only wanted Germans. They prohibited Jews on April the 22nd from being patent lawyers. So no lawyers could practice law in Germany if they were Jewish. Prohibited Jewish doctors from working at state-run insurance. So essentially, Jewish doctors were put out of business because the government refused to insure work done by Jewish doctors. So they were pretty much done at that point. On April 25th, 1933, they limited the number of Jewish children enrolled in public schools. On May 6, 1933, civil service law was amended to include honorary university professors, lecturers, and notaries. June 2nd, 1933, Jewish dentists and dental technicians were prohibited from working also with state-run institutions like state German insurance, which is nationalized. Everybody has government health care, but they will not recognize work done by Jewish doctors and dentists. All non-Aryans and their spouses were prohibited from government employment. Jews were banned from cultural and entertainment activities, including literature, art, film, theater. Jews were prohibited from being journalists, and all German newspapers were either shut down or placed under Nazi control. The Gestapo. It's basically the German secret police, but they weren't really secretive. Göring dismantled the Berlin police. He took 50,000 stormtroopers, brown shirts they were called, and gave them the power to arrest, essentially. On April 26, 1933, Hermann Göring, who was also a big Hitler follower, he's part of Hitler's inner circle, created the secret state police, or the Gemeinschaftspolizei. The post office created the name Gestapo so it would fit on a postal rubber stamp, rather than saying this name. So the Gestapo became an infamous police force used to enforce Nazi laws. Eventually, Heinrich Himmler would take over the Gestapo. But on February 10, 1936, the Gestapo law was passed. Neither their instructions nor their affairs of the Gestapo will be open to review by the administrative courts, which means the Gestapo can arrest anyone, charge them with anything, punish them however they see fit, without receiving a challenge from the court system itself. So they can arrest, interrogate, or send to a concentration camp anybody without any kind of legal proceedings whatsoever. The Gestapo had some pretty ruthless interrogation methods. They did a lot of near drowning in bathtubs of ice water, electric shock by attaching wires to the hands, feet, ears, and genitalia. They like to crush men's testicles with special vice grips, securing a prisoner's wrist behind his back and hanging him by his arms from the ceiling, beating him with rubber nightsticks and cowhide whips, and burning flesh with matches and or soldering irons. So pretty brutal stuff. And essentially, if they thought you were up to no good, they would arrest you and interrogate you like so. If you didn't confess to what they thought you knew, you were pretty much guaranteed to be tortured. So the Gestapo pretty much followed Hitler into every country, and then no matter what country was conquered during World War II, the Gestapo moved in and did what the Gestapo does. They pitted neighbor versus neighbor to use terror to control an area. At its largest, the Gestapo was only 40,000 men strong, but that's enough to do what you want. And they had spies and informants everywhere. Whatever you said on the phone, whatever you put in the mail, whatever you published in anything, anywhere, anytime at all, the Gestapo could, or did, know about it. So, at the annual Nazi rally in 1935, Hitler was supposed to deliver a speech concerning the League of Nations in fascist Italy. However, he canceled it. He needed something to fill the time, so the radical anti-Semites suggested new laws against the Jews. This became known as the Nuremberg Laws. Only those who belonged to German citizenship were citizens, according to these laws. German citizens are only those with German blood or kindred blood, and show that he is both desirous and fit to serve the German people and the Reich faithfully. Marriages between Jews and German citizens are forbidden. Sexual relations outside of marriage between Jews and Germans were forbidden. Jews will not be permitted to employ German females under the age of 45 as domestic servants. Basically, they were concerned about domestic abuse or violence towards the young women. Jews were forbidden to display Reich and national flags or the national colors of any kind. A person who violates Section 1 will be punished with hard labor. A person who violates Section 2 will be imprisoned with hard labor. And a person who violates Section 3 or 4 will be imprisoned up to a year and a fine. So the Nuremberg laws caused some confusion about what actually is a Jew. 2 months later, they defined it. It did not matter whether you were a practicing Jew, meaning whether or not you were religious and attended temple. Even those who had converted to Christianity could even still be considered Jews. This is a Jew. According to Nazi law, a full Jew is someone with 3 or more Jewish grandparents. So all of your parents could be devout Christians, but if your grandparents are Jewish, you are also Jewish. Now, a Mischling is a half-breed, or someone with less than 3 Jewish grandparents. First-degree Mischling equals 2 Jewish grandparents. Second-degree Mischling, 1 Jewish grandparent. So, ideally, you wanted no Jewish grandparents under Nazi law. So 350,000 Germans could be classified as Mischling. 50,000 of those Mischlings had actually been converted to Christianity. And 210,000 were half Jews. 80,000 were considered a quarter Jew. Now, many Jews felt a sense of relief. They now knew where they stood. Hitler actually slowed things down against the Jews after this. He needed to gain credibility internationally. Germany was hosting the Summer Olympics in 1936, and it had criticism from foreigners. The government also set out to impoverish Jews in 37 and 38. Jews had to register valuable property. Aryanization of Jewish businesses. Basically, they take a Jewish business away, they give it to Germans. It's that simple. Jewish doctors were forbidden to treat non-Jews, although they were pretty much out of business at this point. And Jewish lawyers' licenses were revoked. And that is all for our lecture on the escalation of violence towards Jews. Tomorrow, you're going to be reading some eyewitness accounts from Kristallnacht that Miss Bailey will be giving you guys. Pretty terrible stuff, but it's important to know and understand how this increases in violence. If you have any questions, please email me at ksearcy@spartan.limacitieschools.org or at cbailey@spartan.limacitieschools.org. Peace out.